So we have a lot to cover. I have an agenda where we're going to be talking about the bad habits and the myth around content marketing, how to create content people want to read, the best format to use, share triggers, great source of information for all of us. You know, what has people share our content, ways to promote your content, and we're going to do at the end review a case study of actual results with what we've done. So content marketing started a long time ago. We've been at it for, you know, many years, and then we got more efficient with it. We started to carve tablets, and then it got progressively faster when we invented the pressing print in the late 1400s, early 1500s. And then we got into the, oh my God, volume of content once the computer arrived. So let me first talk about the context or the content for content marketing in 2018. Really what it's about driving traffic to our website. It's about having people that are interested in our product pay attention to us. That's really why we're producing content. And if we continue to produce content like it's 2012, we're going to be left behind. We have to change. I don't know if you've noticed, but all the pieces of content we're writing for our clients, I don't know if some of you are wondering, but is it working? Is it producing any results? And the answer is no, it's not. And there is a few reasons why. The reasons why is because there's a lot of bad habits and myth about content marketing on the market with a lot of marketers. I talk to a lot of marketers, and I can see they're opening their eyes wide, and some of them have the deer in the headlight look. So let me just cover some of the bad habits that I see out there. The first one is that we need lots of content. Like, we need a lot of blogs, a lot of pieces of content on our website, and that is not true. There's a matter of fact, I will tell you that having too much content, too much bad content, is actually detrimental to your website. The second myth is that Google likes a lot of fresh content, likes it, you know, as much fresh content as possible. And that, again, is not true. That is not what is important to Google. They do like fresh content, but it's certainly not in the top 5 most important things as far as they're concerned. The third thing is that it should be short and sweet, that people are lazy. They don't want to read. They don't want to scroll. And that's not true. And you know, in the news for all of us here, you know, we're not Seth Godin. You know, Seth Godin is a professional writer. That's what he does for a living. You know, writing 100 words works for him, but for the vast majority of us, I can tell you it doesn't work. So all these habits and myth are so 2012. I don't know about the accuracy of my picture, but you know, bear with me here. So let me talk to you about some better habits. The first one is quality. And I mean, what I mean quality, I said, I don't mean the quality of your English or your grammar, although that is important. You know, you don't want to have, you know, misspelled, but it's the quality as in useful content. And what I'll tell you is that one piece of content on your website, high quality, extremely useful piece of content, is more powerful than 100 pieces of content that have zero value. So your content needs to be resourceful and extremely helpful. And better habit is to do a lot of research. And I'm going to talk to you about how we do our research to produce content, but you have to spend an enormous amount of time on research, because what's important to Google, I would say the most 3 important factors for Google is relevant content. That means relevant to the search. So if I'm looking for a specific keyword, like how relevant is your content to that? The second one is authority, you know, that it actually has a lot of backlinks. A lot of people are linking to your content because it's extremely useful. And then it's sticky. And what I mean by sticky is that how much time are people spending on your blog? See, if people are spending 10 seconds on your blog, that's not good. We want people to spend several minutes. So in order to do that, well, you're going to have to create, you know, high quality piece of content. So let me go step by step on how we do content here at Catapult Marketing, and what all our research has told us how to do content properly in 2018. The first thing you have to do is you have to spend an enormous amount of time on research. That was the first discovery for us, is that we were not spending enough time. We were more guessing what we should be writing, or we were looking at what does it feel like we should be writing, as opposed to doing actual research. Now, where we're doing a piece of content, we'll spend upwards of 20 to 30 hours on research alone. We're looking for the what, the where, the how, everything around a piece of topic. We're spending an enormous amount of time on educating ourselves. One of the tools that we use is BuzzSumo. Now, I don't know if all of you use that, or if you know about it. It's starting to get really popular, but BuzzSumo is an amazing source of researching content. What we do is we're looking for that particular search was content marketing. So what it's telling us is it's telling us the most popular content in terms of total amount of shares, who shared it and why they shared it and where they are. That is actually extremely useful information for us to being able to figure out what actually are people talking about, or what are the most popular pieces of content around a specific topic. That is, BuzzSumo for us is an invaluable tool that we use. Now, we have, obviously what is in front of us, but I don't know that enough of us are paying attention to us. But when you're putting a keyword in Google, we automatically go all the way down and look for all the related terms. This is a treasure trove of information. See, if I put content marketing, the related searches is going to tell me all that people are also looking for content marketing strategy, and what is content in writing, and content marketing examples. That's what people want to look at. So we'll dig even further, then we'll click on content marketing example and look for the related searches around that, and really starting to dig. So it gives us a map as to what matters to people when they're looking for content marketing. So obviously that applies to anything. If you have clients that are chiropractor, or if you're a lawyer, or if you're a dentist, or whatever type of business that you're in, related searches is a treasure trove of information, and I would invite all of you to spend a lot more time digging into that. Now, one of the things that we invested our time and money with is the Brian Dean's course on SEO that works, and he has a technique in there that's called the skyscrapers technique, and we do that systematically for all our pieces of content. The skyscrapers technique is to look at the top 40 pieces of content for any keyword that you want to rank for. Like, no kidding, the top 40 pieces of content. Like, really, click on every single one of them. For some of them, we actually print them and read them top to bottom. And your job is to make a piece of content that is better than those 40. I didn't say the top 10 or the top 20. I said top 40 pieces of content. That's really the depth of research that we do, because if we want to have the hope of ranking, we need to make a piece of content that is better than the 40 pieces of content that are ahead of us. We just need to beat them. And then obviously we're going to be promoting that piece of content once it's done. One of the tools that we have is Answer the Public. Now, I discovered that tool about a couple of months ago, and this is an absolutely amazing tool. You go to answerthepublic.com, and you just type your keyword, and once you click on Get Questions, you're going to get something like that. And what that is showing you is it's showing you all the questions around a piece of content, all the how, all the why, all the when, what, who, which, where, can, will, are. It tells you all the questions that people ask around that specific keyword on the internet. Now, I don't know if it's blown your mind, but when I saw that, I was like, holy mac, this is absolutely amazing. Let me show it to you a little bit closer. So I put chiropractic, that's the keyword, but look at the keywords is telling me that people are asking questions about. How chiropractic helps neck pain, how chiropractic helps allergies, how chiropractic helps sciatica. Do you think that that would be helpful for me to write a piece of content. If people are asking those questions, then it's probably something we ought to be answering. And whether we're going to do it with a piece of content or a video, obviously this is today about content marketing. We need to create a piece of content that is going to be answering all those questions. So that's in a way, a faster way to get to the related searches around a specific keyword. That website blew my mind. Discovered it 2 months ago. I invite all of you to start playing with it because this is a treasure trove. Now, let's talk about the formats of content that we could be creating for us. There are 3 main formats that we use here in our firm. The first one is obviously the list. And you've seen those blogs, is the top 10 or the 23 ways to, all those lists of bullets and whatnot. Now, funny enough, it's not mystery, or it's not a surprise that it says top 10 and 23 ways. The reason why is because our research shows that the most often clicked pieces of content actually are the top 10 list, and then the second one is the 23 something. So if you're going to make a list, I would highly recommend that you use 10 because that's what a lot of people like. And then the next number is 23. Now we've done some that are 54 and 37 ways or whatever, but for some reason, after we've aggregated, lots of content, number 10 and number 23 seems to be very popular. So would highly recommend for you to use that. So that's the first one, list blogs. Now, the second one is crowdsource, and that's going to be probably surprising. And again, that is based on the Brian Dean's research on content marketing. It's actually asking people within a specific industry for help on a specific topic. So I'm going to show you an example at the end. But if you are what we've done, and I'll show it to you at the end of the presentation, is a frame shop in Miami, and we ask interior designer their tips on how to display art. So we identified hundreds of interior designers, sent them an email and asked them for a tip. Not all of them actually, we were aiming for 10-15% of people responding to us, and we actually got that, a little bit more than that actually, and then we aggregated a piece of content with that. So it's a great way to draft a piece of content. Now it's extremely time consuming, but it's the rewards are absolutely amazing. So that's another piece of content that I highly recommend people using, because it's actually a lot of fun. And what I mean by awards and tips is you can actually give ask people for give an award to the best massage therapist, like the 23 top massage therapists in a particular geographical area, and that would be a great way to actually showcase people that are in a in the Orlando region or Atlanta region, and that could give you an amazing piece of content. The third one is a guide. Now a guide is all the info and resources on a specific topic. So if you're a chiropractor, you could create a guide around dealing with a aftermath of an auto accident, all the things that you would want to have in one place. So obviously everything that has to do with chiropractor, maybe everything that has to do with the law, how to protect yourself, something that has to do with insurance, and so forth and so on. So there's just a lot. It's just basically is aggregating all that information to produce a piece of content that is helpful for people that are dealing with what they're dealing with. Like in case of auto accident, you've just created one piece of content that gives them the answers to everything they need to have. Now, I'm going to tell you that if you produce a piece of content like that, you're going to beat everybody else on the market with that specific piece of content. I mean, it's just going to do that for you. Now, let's talk about SEO, because we can't overstep SEO when we're talking about content marketing. So let me tell you the first thing that, we still have people that are talking about the 1% density. And if you don't know what 1% density means, it means that your content should have no more than a 1% density of keyword per piece of content. So if you have 100-word piece of content, you should only have the keyword once. If you have 1,000-word piece of content, you should only have a maximum of 10 words, right? Does that make sense? 1%. That actually is a myth. It used to be a factor, but Google has caught up on that, and we don't see it as effective as actually having related keywords and related key phrases in your content. That's a lot more important than having a 1%. Actually, I would just say that if you have a 1%, it starts to feel a little spammy. You're going to have to say, if you're writing a piece of content on chiropractor, you're going to have to use the word chiropractor 10 times in 1,000 word. It just seems like a lot, and it's just not necessary. What would be more interesting is to have 10 related keywords around chiropractic. Like, what are people asking for or looking for when they want something about chiropractic? The next thing is obviously the URL. And I'm seeing a lot of this, which is not paying attention to the URL of your blog. Like, website.com/my nice blog about content marketing. You'll be a lot more helpful for Google, and actually for anyone wanted a link to it, to actually have it short and sweet and just call it a content marketing blog or a content marketing guide, right? Or a content marketing top 10 list or something like that. But just make it short and make the keyword being the first words after .com/, right? So just do not do the long extended URL that really is not helping your cause. We use actually Huffington Post. Huffington Post, one of the, whether you like it or not, is very skillful at creating titles that get people to want to click on it and want to find out. So if you want to know what to name your blog and you're struggling, I would just invite you to go on Huffington Post and kind of like navigate in their trending blogs and then see how they're naming it. And that's going to give you a sense of how you should name your blog that actually is going to entice people to click on it, or just make them curious enough that they're going to want to discover what that blog is about. Now, one of the things that we do obviously with SEO is, looking at using BuzzSumo to look at all the blogs that are ranking on BuzzSumo. That gives us an enormous indication of, the pieces of content that actually work. And, you look at the first 4 pieces of content, that's going to give you a huge understanding why those pieces of content actually work. Now, let's talk about what I call the share triggers. Now, Noah Kagan and BuzzSumo did a research on 100 million articles, 100 million of them. And what they've discovered is that the content that actually gets most shared by 30% of all the pieces of content, the 30, which is the top number, is actually shared in what puts these blog in the category of utility, which means that the pieces of content that get the most shared are actually useful. What they found out, the second thing which was really interesting, is that the most shared piece of content had 3,000 words and up. So, if you're looking at the content that you want to produce, I would highly recommend that you're looking at least producing 3,000 words pieces of content. Now, the next thing is that positive emotions. Positive emotions actually accounts for 77% of all the shares. So we would, especially right now with all the content that is actually on the internet, we would think that it's probably half and half, negative or positive. Whatever you're doing, just don't be neutral. Be either positive or negative. And that's actually is not true. Positive emotion is really what people like, and this is what they're going to be a lot more willing to share with others. And the last factor is the looking good factor. Is the, if I share this content, it's going to make me look good. So it's actually, it's a interesting psychological phenomenon. Like we actually will share a piece of content because it's so resourceful and it's so good and it's so well done that it makes me look good by sharing this, that I found this piece of content. So it's actually what we call the looking good factor, right? Or social currency. That's what they actually call that. It's just like, I share that piece of content, so I'm a hot shot or something like that. Now, here's what we do when we, to promote content once the content has been created. Obviously, Facebook. Facebook is for us the 800-pound gorilla. And what we do, because video content is really the best content that Facebook likes to share. We just create a 1-2 minute video snapshot and with a link to the content. So we'll create an amazing piece of content, and we'll create a, just a 1-2 minute pieces of content, video content that will actually narrate what this entire content is about with a link, and we'll boost that to a specific targeted audience, and that helps us drive traffic to the website, because sometimes just posting on your website is not going to be sufficient. And so we leverage Facebook to attract an audience that may not necessarily know that the content is there. We do the same thing with Instagram, with a link in the bio, with a 59-second video. Obviously it's 60 seconds. I've just put 59 because, just so it catches your attention. I'm pretty much sure everybody knows that Instagram is a 60-second video, but we'll create a 60-second square video, again, with a link in the bio. And this is how we drive traffic. Obviously, we leverage LinkedIn. LinkedIn actually came out with the videos a while back. The length of the videos on Instagram is 10 minutes. The CEO of LinkedIn came out and said that if you cannot say what you need to say in less than 10 minutes or up to 10 minutes, then it's probably too long. So he actually capped the videos to 10 minutes. So you can put a 10-minute video leading, or you don't have to put 10 minutes. You can put a couple of minutes, but just inviting people to look at the content. Obviously, email marketing. That's a tried and true way to reach people, to just show them a piece of content. So we just send it to your database, and don't hope that they're going to find it on their own, but just basically put it in an email and send it to your database. Now, the next thing we do to promote a piece of content is what we call link building. So I don't know if everybody knows what link building, a lot of people know what it is, but just in case you don't know, is to basically have people out there linking to your website, to the piece of content from their website. So there's several ways we do it. It is probably the most difficult and the most time-consuming task to do. There is no easy way to do it. I would highly recommend that you stay away from the companies that are telling you we'll give you 100 backlinks for cheap. It's going to be counterproductive and it will kill your content. Just have high quality backlinks. Take the time and effort to actually ask people, and I'm going to show you a couple of tips on how we do that. I was just saying that recently, and I thought everybody knew that, but people were completely surprised by it. The best backlink you could ever get would be with a .edu or .gov. I really thought everybody knew that, but apparently when I shared that, a lot of people were surprised by it. They're also the most difficult backlinks to get because usually they guard their website, making sure that the content on their website is high quality. So again, if you produce a high quality piece of content, you may get a .edu, and that would actually be amazing because it has an enormous amount of authority in the eyes of Google, both of these. So this is the holy grail in terms of backlinks. If you ever get one of those, give yourself a high five. You've done a great job. So how we do it for us to find people that could backlink to our content. Well, again, we use BuzzSumo. So if you look at BuzzSumo and we're looking at the pieces of content, on the right side, next to the content and right next to the little blue and the colored dots, it actually there's a button that says View Sharers. And if you click on that, it will actually show you who shared those other piece of content. It will show you their Twitter handle. Now, if that person, Snowden Shabaham, or the people below, or Jose Javier Garde below, have shared or have backlinked a piece of content or shared a piece of content, the chances are is they might be interested in your content. So that's really, in essence, BuzzSumo makes it easy for you to find people that have shared content that is related or similar to the one that you have. Now, obviously, it doesn't work all the time. It's, again, very tedious, but it pays off enormously, because if one of these people be willing to link to it or actually share it in their network, and then all of a sudden it really starts to go viral. Now, let me talk about the case studies, because now I'm going to show you some actual results of pieces of content that we have created. The first one is a list blog. And you remember I was telling you earlier in the slides, the list, the top 10 ways and the 23 ways to do that. We created a list blog for an attorney for debt collection. And the research, after we've done the research, it showed us that the most questions out there were about phone harassment. So we researched debt collection, and a lot of people were actually interested related to that about phone harassment. So we created a piece of content called the 10 important things to know with phone harassment. And that piece of content obviously took us a while, and we're giving all the information. We've actually embedded some videos in it. All the points are highlighted. All of this took, an enormous amount of time to research all that stuff. And then we produced a content with all the related keywords, everything that people were looking for. And we produced that piece of content. Now, that piece of content took a month of research and production to do, an entire month. It was about, not a month solid work, it was about 70 hours worth of work. That piece of content ended up ranking number 6 nationwide, and obviously number 1 in local market. So again, the old method was to produce, 3 blogs a week, and we just went and scratched that and say, you know what, we're going to produce one amazing long form piece of content with all the information, and it paid big time for us. Now, the next one that we've done is the crowdsource. And remember, I was telling you earlier, doing a crowdsource blog, how to display art. We asked 357 interior designers. So 357 of them, we sent them an email. And we said, could you give us a tip on how best to display art? 54 of them responded. They answered, and they actually say, well, yeah, of course, there is how to display art. This is my tip. This is what I would recommend. And that produced that piece of content. It created a piece of content called the 54 Expert Share Their Tips on How to Display Art. And we actually put their content with a picture, a website, and a Twitter handle, and produced that piece of content that you have right there. Now, that piece of content took 3 months to do. 3 months to do the research and production, and it ended up being number 7 nationwide. We beat websites like Best Housekeeping and some of the big name brands that and we ended up being second in the local market. The reason why we didn't get number 1 is the first one was a huge website locally, and we couldn't beat them. But number 2 was not too shabby. That's a evergreen piece of content. This piece of content is never going to go anywhere, and we're always going to rank very high, and that's paying big time for that firm. Now, the next one we did, which is a guide blog. This is what I was telling you, a guide, and we have a law firm in Fort Lauderdale that deals in domestic violence. So we were looking at, the pieces of content that we could create for that, and we were not really sure how to write a piece of content that would be helpful. But what we discovered is there was not a guide for victims of domestic violence. Where would they go to find all the resources, all the facts, all the helpline, all the support group? It was really scattered over a lot of websites. Some of these websites were government websites. They were very confusing and whatnot. So we decided to create one single piece of content called the Ultimate Resource Guide to Domestic Violence. And that piece of content, as you can see, has all the places, on understanding the types of domestic violence, the law and the punishment, domestic violence and your citizenship rights. We actually find out that all those things were relevant to domestic violence. And we created a very, very long piece of content. Most of these, by the way, are links to either articles that were written or government websites or just a help support group that are out there that are helping people that have a need for that. And there's even a way for them to download that piece of content. That took us a month of research and production, and we're #1 in the local market. So that, again, it was, there's just no way for us to reach that level of dominance on the market. And by the way, nobody even gets close to us. I mean, if you're looking in that geographical market and you look for domestic violence, there's nobody that even comes close to us. So it's really well worth it to go that route. Now let me show you some real results. These are some of the results that we've produced for a local dentist producing content. Our research showed that around dentistry, a lot of people were looking for ways to remove plaque from their teeth, obviously, at home. So, well, we wrote one amazing piece of content providing all the 10 possible ways you could do that at home, which, by the way, the dentist was like, why do I want to tell people to do that at home? And I'm like, well, because what it's going to do is it's going to drive an enormous amount of traffic to your website, and those people, it's going to make your website even that much more relevant. So here is the results. That is actually what happened with one piece of content. This is the Moz results. We went from 100 organic visitors on this dentist website to over 5,600 a month with one piece of content. That is one piece of content, the top 10 ways. It's producing 97%. That is actually the results of October. It's one piece of content that is driving all the traffic to the website. Now, the results for this client is that the authority of that website is untouchable for every single dentist around. We just produced one amazing piece of content, and it's just driving all the traffic. Now, we've had that dentist with us for over 2 years, and we've produced 5 pieces of content. That's it, 5. I didn't say 5 per month. I said 5 total. And the reason why is because, but just one piece of content actually did all that. I mean, and it was not the first piece of content that we produced, because not all pieces of content are going to go viral like that. But after I believe this was the 3rd piece of content we created, now all of a sudden it went, just completely viral. And it's just dominating the local market. Now this guy is untouchable. We can put any keyword we want there. He's just going to rank for it without a doubt. So let me recap now everything that we've covered today about content marketing and how to crush the competition. That lots of content is not the way to go. That is very, very 2012. So don't have a lot of content. It's really not going to make any difference. Instead, focus on quality. You don't have high quality content. What Google values mostly is relevant content with authority, and that's sticky. Like people are going to stay on it for a long time. Answer the Public is an amazing source of content where you can find all the questions that people have around a specific keyword. The best way to go about it is to actually create lists, guides, or crowdsources. Facebook is an amazing way to promote your content. Of course, email is the second best way that we found to promote the content and send it to the people that are interested in what you have to say. And my point is you should get started today, or you're probably going to be left behind. And that concludes my presentation. Aaron, back to you.
Awesome. That was awesome.
Thank
I
you.
do have quite a few questions here, Antoine. Let me
Mhm.
pull them up. Okay, here we go. We have quite a few, so I will just burn and turn through them here. Okay, are you researching the keywords or info for the actual content, or both?
For both. We actually, when we do a research, we actually will put one keyword, and the keyword is going to lead us to all the related searches and whatnot. So it really starts with a keyword. Sometimes it can start with a key phrase. So for example, the framing shop, there are their keyword for them is framing or frame shop or things like that. And what we found is that the related keywords around that was how to display art. That's what led us to actually create a piece of content around that. I don't know if I answered your question, but it's really both.
Perfect, thank you. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so this question came up when you showed the answer to the public tool. Do you
Mm-hmm.
need to explicitly include the exact question before you answer it? I'm not sure if they're talking of, I'm thinking about like when you're actually producing content. Because
Mm.
remember you had mentioned like, hey, these are the questions. When you showed the tool, you're like, these are the questions. And then that's when this question came in.
Right, right. So answer the public, the way we use it. So I don't know how I'm going to answer this question, but let me give you maybe best way to get to it. Um, we go to answer the public and we actually enter one keyword. So one keyword can lead you to looking for something different because you're going to find, in terms of research, sometimes you start with a specific keyword and it's leading you in a total different direction. But you have to start somewhere. So the way Answer the Public works is once you've found the key topic that you're interested in or you want to write about, then that is going to give you all the questions around that specific keywords that people have. So in essence, Answer the Public is aggregating all the questions around a specific keyword and putting them to you in a format with the what, the where, the how, the who, and all this. So it really gives you all that. And then what we do with all those answers, we're going to pick and select the question that makes the most sense based on the piece of content, and we're going to answer them. So they're going to be a paragraph inside the piece of content. That's one of the ways that we go about. Because sometimes, if we have to write a piece of content for chiropractic, we're not exactly sure what to write about, right? And we're writing on
Right.
behalf of a chiropractor. Now, the chiropractor may have an idea. Now, what's actually ironic is most of the time, sometimes we have argument with the clients because they say, well, this is what I want to talk about, around a specific topic. And I says, yeah, I understand, but this is not what the people on the internet are actually interested in. See, if you talk about debt collection, what people are interested in is phone harassment, because the phone, it's completely related to debt collection. But the main topic of interest is people are being harassed at home on the phone. So that's what the piece of content needs to be about. Now, if we talk about debt collection, we're just going to be writing a piece of content that's going to be utterly boring. And on the other hand, nobody is looking for that. People don't have a debt collection problem. What they have is they have a phone harassment problem, right? So
Right.
if we put phone harassment now in and answer the public, we're going to get all the questions that people are asking around answer the public, and that gives us the piece of content that we need to write about.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, I sell engineered soils, simple competitive market. How do I develop relevant actionable content for that?
So what was the business or the industry?
Engineered soils?
Engineered soils. So I would really start with I would probably start with Google. Um, Put engineered soil in Google and look for related searches around engineered soil. This is exactly how I would go about. And I would look for what are people asking that is relating to that. I don't know that industry. Actually, I'm going to pull it up as we speak.
Okay.
One of the soil, engineering soil, and I'm going to go, oops, engineering soil. And if I go, I'm going on a different screen here. So I actually, soil engineer near me, soils engineering testing, definition of soil in civil engineering. So basically what I'm starting to do is I'm going to start to dig around that. I'm just going to put it in Google and I'm going to see where Google is leading me, right? So sometime I'll just put alternate keyword. I will look like soil engineering. What other keywords are people are starting to use with this, and see if I can dig something up around that. Another tool that we'll use is BuzzSumo. BuzzSumo is going to be probably very helpful because what you're going to have is you're going to have all the content written around that. Now it's a very niche engineering soil. It's not, like dentistry. So I don't know who is actually looking for that type of stuff, but I would be, the two places I would be starting to dig is Google searches and related searches and BuzzSumo.
Okay, awesome. And then I would assume that you use this same path for any type of keyword you want to research. Is that
Right.
correct?
That is correct. I think the thing that I want you to get out there, everybody listening, is that most of us, and before we actually did our own research of how to write content, don't spend enough time on the research for the content we need to write. I'm not kidding. We spend about 10 to 20 hours on research alone. So engineering soil, I'm literally telling you that you should be spending about a day and a half on research alone. Like really dig in and start to print pieces of content and start to read them and really like educate yourself. What are people talking about? What is the common thread that you see with content out there, around engineering soil or whatever topic you have? Spend an enormous amount, because if you spend the time in the research, it's going to become clear as day after a day and a half. Oh, that is what people are interested in around that, especially around engineering. So, and then that gives you the piece of content. And then what you can do is do the skyscrapers technique and looking at the top 40 pieces of content around that specific keyword or key phrase. Because I doubt the keyword is engineering soil. Really it's probably not what you should be talking about. It's probably, I don't know, maybe it's about agriculture, maybe it's about organic farming. I don't know what it is, but it's something that relates to engineering soil, but that is not the keyword. Your research will point you in the right direction.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
For SEO, should you always use your keyword in the title?
Yes, the short
Okay.
answer is yes.
Okay.
And it should actually start with that. If preferably, or have the keyword as close as possible to the beginning of the title. So 10 ways, 10 content marketing tips for marketers. That would be an amazing ways to do it. So 10 content marketing tips for marketers, or 10 content marketing tips for business owners, as opposed to what business owners need to do with content marketing in 2018. See, content marketing and towards the end of that sentence as
Right.
opposed to being at the beginning. Now, tricks don't beat quality. So what I mean by that is that where you place your keyword in the title is important, but what's more important is that your content is actually really of great quality. Because if you have an amazing title but you have a crappy piece of content, people are not going to stick around. So
Right.
I'm careful with, what's the trick. The trick is quality. And if you have quality and you promote it well and whatnot, that's probably going to do the trick for you.
Okay. Awesome. So speaking of promotion, how did you promote the content for the dentist?
Facebook.
Okay.
Entirely in Facebook, 100% on Facebook. What we did, we actually, so there was 10 ways to remove plaque at home. That actually was 10 pieces of content. So we just took the number one tip, and then that was one piece of content for Facebook. And then there are 10 ways to remove plaque at home, and this is number one, and with a link to the blog. And then we just did the same thing a week later on the number two, and then number three, and then on number four, and so forth and so on, and rinse repeat. This is how you do that. And if it's a great piece of content and it is sticky and it becomes relevant in the eyes of Google, then Google is going to serve it more often when people are looking for plaque, and then it becomes viral on its own. But you have to kickstart it, and the best way to kickstart it is, obviously email marketing to your database and Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, this is just a quick one. We do have quite a few more, but here's just a quick one. I know you're
Mhm.
talking about the .gov links and whatnot.
Mhm.
Are .mil backlinks good too?
The straight answer is I don't know.
Okay.
I would assume that it would. It's that mill is that military. I'm assuming, right?
Right.
Right. I'm going to go on the assumption that yes. What I know in the holy grail of backlinks is .gov and .edu are really the most the backlinks with the most authority. I also know they're the most difficult to get, because if you reach out, well, .gov is nearly impossible. Um, .edu would be a lot easier, but if you approach a university and you say, "Hey, I've created an amazing piece of content," and I know that you wrote an article on this, I would appreciate if you could link to it, because it would be extremely valuable to your students, to the parents. Again, if you create an amazing piece of content that is extremely resourceful, you have chances that they're going to say yes. But I'm telling you, in my experience, that they guard this and they're very careful with giving away backlinks. Just, I mean, you can always ask, but
Right.
I expect no's.
Right. Okay, great. Okay. How do you know where you stand in your ranking for a blog or a content that you create? You mentioned how your blog content um, about what experts said and how to display art. This ranked number 7 nationwide and number 2 local market. How do you get those stats and information?
We use SEMrush. We use a couple of SEO tools. So we use SEMrush and Moz, M-O-Z, Moz. There, obviously you have Google Analytics, which is the free tool. Moz and SEMrush are paid subscriptions. We just put, it actually connects to Google Analytics, and it gives us the ranking of the specific keyword. So we can say, tell me my ranking nationally and tell me my ranking locally for a city. So you could say, Miami, Atlanta, New York City, and it will tell you where do you rank on that specific city. So this is how we know. When you look for on your own desktop, depending if you are in the city, you're not going to get the correct read, especially if it's your own website, because Google knows it's you, and if you've been on the website that many times, it's going to give it to you because it assumes that you want to go back to a website you spend a lot of time looking at, which is if it's your website, you've been doing this. So it's not going to give you an accurate read. A lot of people say, oh, look, I rank very well for that specific keyword. I'm like, well, yeah, it's your computer in your own city and this is your own website. Of course, it's going to show up well for you. But that not be true for other people around the city. So this is why we use Moz and SEMrush, because it tells us the truth. It just looks at it from their point of view as opposed to your own.
Okay, and just a note, in the chat window, I did put those 2 websites in there. So if anybody's interested, just check your chat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Right.
do you copyright your content?
I'm copyright as in, so copyright is, do we write our own content
No,
or
I
do
think
we?
this. So I'm not sure if you copyright. You cannot steal somebody's content. That's illegal. So I think they're
Right,
asking if you copyright it, but that may just be you're just not allowed. It's plagiarism if you copy somebody's content. So I don't believe
right.
there's really
Yeah.
copyright to your content.
Right. So, no, we don't copyright as in submitted to the copywriting. There's a specific process to submit your content to the copywriting agency to just say that is my own content and whatnot. But there's obviously a time and date stamp when it was published, so you could actually prove your case in court saying, this is my content. I am the original guy that wrote it because it was published and produced on my website by that date.
Right.
And it's not something that, is it possible that someone would steal a piece of our content? Yeah, it's a possibility. One of the things that we use, there's several tools out there that we use, and the name is escaping me. We actually look for plagiarism. So, our content writer, we actually ask them, because we do a lot of research, it's very important that, and because Google will penalize you if they see that your content is plagiarized. So let me give you an example, which is actually, it's really
Oh,
interesting.
sorry,
Yeah, go
Antoine.
ahead.
I use Grammarly. I always run everything through Grammarly. Grammarly does have a plagiarism checker that
Right.
checks everything online to see if it is
Right. And
plagiarized.
right. So Grammarly is a great tool, but we use another one in house. The name is escaping me, but that's exactly it. Grammarly is a great tool. You put it through, and it will tell you if the content was plagiarized or not. But so, for example, when we're talking about debt collection and phone harassment, sometime we may quote a specific law that relates to phone harassment. So obviously, if we do that, then and if you take that specific paragraph, that is going to look as a plagiarized content. It's not plagiarized content. We're just quoting how the law is written. So, obviously, this is something that we run into with law firms and whatnot. But even with this, we try to be super careful. So the way you do it is, obviously, Google is going to look at the entire body of the piece of content. So if it's a 4,000 word piece of content, and 150 of those words is highly plagiarized because it's referencing a law, Google knows how to make the difference between a portion of the content that is very similar to something else versus your entire piece of content. Now, we know that our threshold, by the way, for us is over, it's 90 to 95% unique content. We know that the threshold for Google is a little bit lower than that. They give you a little bit more leeway. I don't quite remember what the number is, but it's something like 75%, 80% unique. It's fine with them. So let's call it 80% unique, 20% plagiarized is cool with them. We hold our standard much higher than that because we just don't want to go close to that. And usually when we have a little bit of plagiarism, it's because we're referencing law,
Right.
just articles of law, and there's just no way around it. I mean, we can change the text. The text says that, and that's what it says.
Right. Great. Thank you so much. Okay.
Hmm.
Do you ever require those who access your content to provide contact information? So like a gated page, email address, etc., so they can
No,
get the content. Okay.
no, this is not.
What are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious because I use gated content, so I can get people's information.
Right. I guess, how I would do it is I would give the piece of content. I mean, as far as we're concerned, what we want people to do is to have access to that content. So we don't want to make it difficult for them, and I think it will turn off too many people. It would turn them away. I mean, for me, if I arrive on a website and it immediately is asking me for an email, I mean, unless it's a highly valuable piece of content and it's wants my first name, last name, and email, I may give it. But again, that's a bit 2002 when HubSpot was exploding and we had all those pieces of content and whatnot. What I would do in the that would be different is, give them a download of the blog. So write an amazing blog and they say, listen, you can download this piece of content in a nice clean PDF format. But for you to do that, give me your email address. So that would be one way to collect an email address or get their contact information. So here's the piece of content, and then if you print it, it's going to look like crap on your printer, right?
Right.
Or you can download it with a PDF, and in exchange for that, then give me. So I think that would be a fair trade where people would say, okay, well, you know what, it was a good piece of content. I'm willing to do that.
Right.
That would be my recommendation. And again, with everything that has to do with internet marketing, test it. Just try it one way or try the other. See if your traffic falls off, then stop doing that. I would just do an A and B test and see if one is getting better results than the other.
Okay, awesome. It is the top of the hour. Do you want to stick around and answer a few more questions here,
I,
or?
I'd be more than happy to do that. I can answer all the questions you want.
Okay, great. If you're pressed for time, feel free to hop off, but we do have quite a few more questions. So here we go. How well does
Hmm.
video in your content help increase shares?
By 30%.
Awesome.
It's just clean cut, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's just what we want to consume is videos. Videos is the 800 pound. I know we're talking about content marketing, and I think content marketing, again, is we've been doing this for a long, long, long time, since the cavemen. But what is approaching us at warp speed is video content. That's what we love to consume, and we're seeing a huge difference on landing pages and blog content. What it does for us on the blog, and one of the reasons why we do it is it increases the stickiness. So the stickiness is the length of time people will spend on the blog. So my job as a content marketer, right, is to have you stay on the page as long as possible. See, the last thing I want you to do is click on it, look at it, and then click back. That's a bounce, and that's just really a bad signal for me. So what I want to do is I want you to scroll. I want you to get interested, and I want you to stay as long as possible. Especially, I want you to stay longer than the other 10 pieces of content in the top 10. Right? So if the average length of time on the other pieces of content is about 2-3 minutes, I want you to stay on mine 3 or 4 minutes. And the way to do that is actually a video. So if I have 2 videos, chances are you're going to you're going to stay longer, and it's going to improve my case. So yeah, videos is really a no-brainer. It should be in all the pieces of content.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay,
Mhm.
for answerthepublic.com, is there a way to see the relative value of the search phrases within their tool, or do you need to manually enter into BuzzSumo?
Say that question again.
Okay, I'll say it slower. For answerthepublic.com, is there a
Yes.
way to see the relative value of the search phrases within their tool, or do you need to manually enter those into BuzzSumo?
Yeah, you have to manually. There's no connection between Answer the Public and BuzzSumo. So yeah, you would have to, I would take one phrase. By the way, the Answer the Public, you can download, when you have a result, you can actually download an Excel sheet with all the questions. And I would copy and paste from the spreadsheet into BuzzSumo and seeing what the results are for a specific key phrase or a specific question. I would also do it on Google. I would actually play with all that. I would just say, what is Google telling me? What is BuzzSumo telling me? What is Answer the Public telling me? I would just really dig in all that. And obviously, if you're going to get a list of 10 or a list of 23, then the question would be, what would be the 23 questions I can extract out of that would answer everything someone wants to know around that topic? And if you do that, you killed it. You would be like, I would say find 23 of them, 23 questions would answer, answer the public,
Right.
the why, the how, the who. For each of the question, give me a couple hundred words answer. Produce a couple of videos answering a couple of the questions. We'll give some pictures and some graphs, and you will have an amazing piece of content.
Great.
It's going to take time, right? But
right. But it
right.
sounds like, I mean, with all the research, that I think a lot of people just create content and they don't put all this research into it. And it sounds like it really makes the difference.
Yeah, well, in 2018, the problem, and one of the things that says, stop producing content like it's 2012. That's what we were doing in 2012.
Right.
We were doing 3 blogs. Do you remember that? We said 3 blogs 3 blogs per week, right? I mean, we were writing blogs like they're going out of style, and Google just finally says stop. I mean, you people are producing garbage. Like, none of that stuff is readable. Like 600, 800 words. It's nonsensical. It's not even, bathroom reading. It's awful. What Google said, no, it's not the volume. It's not how fresh it is. It's not how much you have, but it's just, is this relevant? Is this quality content? And you can't fake quality. It's either quality or it's not. And the way you do quality, well, is answering questions that people are actually interested in. So like that.
Okay, great. We still have a few more questions here. So assuming you have good content that you produced in one way or another, once you have it and you're going to publish it, is it recommended that you include Google AdSense ads with the content? I was told it will help with Google.
That's a great question. And any answer I would have would be guessing.
Okay.
Because I am not, my hunch is no. I don't know that having AdSense would help you. I think it's more falls into the tricks as opposed to the quality. So I think that doing Google ads would not trump quality. So I said, again, I'm going back, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I will. Number one is quality. Then I would say that quality content that is actually being shared, then if you compound this with some Google ads, AdSense, possibly it would accelerate and help, because obviously Google is in the business of selling ads, and this is how they're making their money. So I would think that they would be interested in doing this, but I don't know. I would have to have my my SEO manager prove it, disprove that point, but I think she would say, first of all, the quality has to be, if you have a viral piece of content, like a piece of content that is being shared a lot, then possibly that could help. But I don't. I'm making stuff as I go along right now.
Okay. All right. I'll just run through just a couple more here. And any ones that we missed, we can follow up afterwards. But how many questions should you try to answer in your content?
As many as you think you can answer. That makes sense.
That makes sense. Okay.
Well, so the skyscrapers technique is really, look at the 40 pieces of content, the top 40 pieces of content. And if the top piece of content has, the first 3 pieces of content that have 2,000 words each, then the chances are is you're probably going to have to go to 3,000. Like your piece of content is going to have to be better. It's going to have to be longer. It's going to have to be more in depth. So you have to produce a better piece of content. Now, the good news is, for a lot of industries, a lot of the content out there is crap. I mean, it's not easy to beat them, right? Because you're like, holy moly, this is just really, really bad. So it's not difficult for you to create a better piece of content. We just know that number 10 and 23 are the most popular numbers. I don't know why, but they are. So find out how long your piece of content has to be. So if you look at the top 10 pieces of content, and they each have 1,000 words, then you probably can get away with 2,000 words. You don't have to go to 3,000. But we do know that the most shared pieces of content are pieces of content with 3,000 words and up. So, depends on how many words you put per question. If you put 100 words if you have 100 words answering a question, then that would be 30 questions. 30 questions with 100 words, that's 3,000 words. There you have it. So I don't know that there's a magic number.
Right.
The magic is produce a better piece of content. And, if you have to produce a 4,000 word piece of content, then you'll divide it by the number of questions, and it will tell you how many words you need to have.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap up here. I just want to note this was awesome, and there was so many people sending me messages saying this was the best content marketing webinar they've ever sat on. I got 3
Hmm.
messages like that. So, and I agree, it
Hmm.
was excellent. So thank you so much, Antoine.
Well, my pleasure. I'm really delighted that you guys got value out of it. I know I probably rattled the cage of a few people, or got them upset because they're just looking at their content, and now they know that they have a lot of work ahead of them. But it's 2018, and I hope I give you enough inspiration and enough information and tools to really kick it and crush the competition.
Yeah, awesome. I'm just want to give you just one sample of what somebody said. It says, "This was fantastic. Antoine knows so much and conveys it so well. I can't remember participating in a webinar that was a better use of my time." And like I said, that was one that I didn't even read before. So awesome.
Mm.
Uh,
Okay, thank you so
yeah.
much.
Yep.
Made my day.
Okay, so now I want to thank you, our audience, for taking time out of your day to join us. For those of you who have not experienced Pinpoint, we invite you to take advantage of that free month of advanced free email marketing I mentioned in the start of the webinar. Also, if you're interested in a demo of Pinpoint, please get in touch with us or let us know when you fill out the webinar survey. Also, check out our blog and get some great marketing articles and tips. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thanks again for joining. I hope you really got a lot out of this. All right, till next time. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thanks, Antoine.
Thank you.